It's early 2016.
An unprecedented phenomenon is sweeping through the southern African nation of Zimbabwe.
Backyard breeders, corporate executives, and ordinary citizens are suddenly obsessed with a heavily patterned bird.
In suburban high-density locations like Chitungwiza and Highfields, the rhythmic chirping of these birds echoed from the custom-built wire cages. On social media WhatsApp groups, they are flooded with testimonials. The bird was said to save you from high blood pressure. The eggs are curing diabetes, and someone even bought a residential stand by selling these chicks.
This is the Chihuta.
It is a mysterious bird that at its peak of its frenzy was consumed by almost everyone. According to the ZQFT, local breeders were pushing over 15,000 birds and roughly 15,000 eggs into the local market every single week to try and keep pace with an insatiable public appetite. It was a meat that tasted entirely distinct from ordinary broiler chicken. Some say the taste of a duck and a chicken combined. Yet its presence in major commercial supermarkets came with a price tag that left many shoppers questioning reality, with a single adult bird fetching up to $6 and a basic crate of eggs going for more than $7.
Almost overnight, this sudden collective hype came to a sudden crashing end. Now it's been 10 years since that chaotic peak, and the Chihuta market is nowhere to be found. Today we investigate the sudden rise and the dramatic disappearance of the Quail bird in Zimbabwe. Before we look at the collapse, we must ask, how did a tiny bird convince an entire nation that it held a secret financial wealth?
To understand why the Chihuta vanished, we first have to understand how it took over in the first place. In Zimbabwe, the common quail known as Chihuta in Shona or Isigwaka in Ndebele was historically regarded as a wild game. For generations, it was a bird hunted in rural bushes by young boys or farmers during harvest seasons. It was never viewed as a commercial livestock. However, around 2014, a massive shift occurred. Entrepreneurs began importing and domesticating the Japanese quail, Coturnix japonica, alongside heavier breeds like the Georgia giant bobwhite. What started as an alternative poultry project rapidly mutated into a full-scale national mania driven by one powerful engine: word-of-mouth marketing, centered on miraculous health claims. By late 2015, a collective belief of the Chihuta meat and the eggs possessing profound medical properties. Academic research conducted in urban farming hubs like the Bindura confirmed that citizens were aggressively buying quail products under the impression that they could treat or even fully cure hypertension, advanced stages of diabetes, erectile dysfunction, various forms of aggressive cancers, and gastric ulcers and immune deficiencies. Despite a lack of initial clinical validation from the Ministry of Health and Child Care, the public did not even care. Zimbabweans, highly adaptive and living through a strained economic climate, embraced the bird with religious favor. Economically, the Chihuta craze became a perfect storm. Unlike the broiler chickens, which require extensive space, weeks of heavy feeding, and significant start-up capital, quails are remarkably resilient. They mature in just 6 weeks, lay eggs continuously, require minimal space, and consume a fraction of the feed. For someone unemployed or a retired grandmother, a civil servant looking to cushion their income, it was the ultimate backyard business. By April 2016, the Chihuta phenomenon had grown so large that it caught the attention of the state. The national flag was being parodied online, with memes replacing the iconic Zimbabwean bird with a random quail. It was no longer a fringe agricultural hobby, it was a dominant parallel economy. Then came April 28, 2016. The Minister of Environment, Water and Climate, Opam Chinguri Kashiri, stood up and issued a sweeping authoritative directive The government, she announced, was placing an immediate suspension on commercial quail farming and the trading of its product. The rationale presented by the ministry was sharp. They wanted to step in to protect vulnerable, unsuspecting citizens from conmen who were peddling unverified medicinal claims and charging exorbitant prices for cheap beds. Furthermore, the ministry declared that because the quail was technically a protected wildlife species, any commercial breeder required a specialized wildlife ranching permit from the Zimbabwe Parks and Wildlife Management Authority. The cost of the permit, you may ask, a staggering $1,000. The announcement sent shockwaves through the country for thousands of small-scale backyard farmers who had invested their life savings into breeding stock, incubated and free infrastructure. $1,000 USD fee was an impossible barrier. A massive panic selling wave began instantly. On social media platforms and online classifieds, the price of an adult cheetah plummeted from $6 to as low as 10 cents within 48 hours. Farmers desperately tried to liquidate their stocks before law enforcement descended on their properties. Millions of eggs were broken or given away for free. 6 days later, following immense public backlash and formal clarification in the parliament by Vice President Emerson Mnangagwa, stating that the ban was not official government policy, Minister classified her position. She stated she had never intended to ban domesticated Japanese quails under the Ministry of Agriculture, but was strictly banning the illegal poaching, hunting, and commercialization of wild quails from national parks. But the clarification came far too late.
Was it
The
truly a
economic
government
damage was
statement that
completely
killed the
irreversible.
cheetah, or it was something deeper?
While the farming community permanently blamed the ministry's words for bringing the industry into a collapse, the basic economic analysis reveals a deeper, more structural truth. In phase 1, the breed A buys birds to sell chicks to breed B, and the breed B, which is the multiplication, breeds these birds to sell to breeder C. Now the saturation at phase 3, everyone is a seller, nobody is an ordinary consumer. Now the collapse at phase 4, the chain breaks and demand vanishes, prices crash. When the market was young, everyone bought a quail, did so with an intention of becoming a seller. They wanted to fertilize eggs, incubate, and invest. The moment the government intervened, it broke the psychological spell. Once people stopped buying quails to breed them, farmers were forced to rely on people buying quails simply to eat them, and that is where the market hit a hard wall. When stripped of its mythical medical status, the cheetah could not compete with standard poultry. Once the illusion of a medical cure-all was shattered by scientific skepticism and a regulatory scrutiny, the average Zimbabwean consumer chose to spend their limited funds on affordable beef or standard chicken. The major stock feed companies stopped mixing specialized quail feed due to the dropping demand. The specialized distribution network collapsed. Within months of the 2016 panic, the cheetah returned to exactly what it had been before the madness, a small, quiet bird living in the rural wild, completely absent from the urban economy.
The disappearance of the cheetah from Zimbabwe's economic landscapes remains one of the most fascinating economic and historical stories and history captured in Zimbabwe.